Hello, today I'm gonna do a little tutorial to teach a few things. My intention is to give you a little practical on how to create a moving platform and a trigger that called a pressure plate. Will make it activatable by objects, physical objects, or by the character. That'll be very useful for games like puzzle game, cooperation games, and I'm going to show you now. So with the process, you can trigger the platform, and when you come off it, it stops and starts again. So that could be very useful in a puzzle game or platform game, whether it's cooperation or for a puzzle game where you have to place object on the trigger. Of course, when you remove it, it stops. So that's what we're going to look at doing, and I'll provide some explanation. We'll learn a few things such as timeline to make the button and the button moving. We use inter movement for the moving platforms. We'll use triggers, trigger volumes, and so on. So without further ado, we're going to dive into it. The first thing we're going to do is get organized, and I'm going to create a folder. I'm going to call it triggered platform. Of course, you call it what you want, but always be mindful of having names that mean something and can easily be identified. So inside of it, I'm going to create my blueprint, one for the platform and one for the pressure plate. I've created very quickly a couple of materials that we can use, but it doesn't really matter. Today we're going to look at the mechanics and the coding via blueprint, how to make this work. So let's get going. If you're wondering what I'm using, is, as you can see, I haven't changed much. It's simply the third-person blueprint. I haven't done anything. I've got that extra training where I made sure it worked, and the material. The rest is the same as what you would have in a third person. So, right-click, blueprint, and we're going to create an actor, which we must name appropriately again. So I'm going to call this one moving platform. This, double click it to go inside of it. Let me bring it here. And what do we need? We want a moving platform, so obviously we're going to need a platform. This can easily be done with a cube or a static mesh, whichever you want. The cube will do just fine for us. We're going to call it platform. We need to change the size a little bit. I'm going to put it 0.2, let's say 2 and 2 on XYZ, and that's going to be our platform. Okay. What do we need? Well, we need to know where it's going to go, where it's going to start, where it's going to end for the movement. So how do we do this? There is a very convenient component which is called inter to movement, and I'll tell you why it's a good one to use. You'll see when we've done that. It allows us to create control point that decides where our moving object is going. So when you create the inter to movement, there's a few things we need to look at. First of all, notice you've got control points here. We'll come back to that. We have a duration to tell us how long it's going to take to go from one point to another, or to be more precise, if you got 3, 4, 5 control points, it will take that time to go through all the control points. It's not in between. What we want to look at is the behavior type. We're going to do a ping pong. Notice you got one shot reverse, loop reset. When it reaches the end, it jumps back to the start. We want it to be able to go from the start to the end and back, and you can see you've got in descriptions when you keep your cursor on it. So we want ping pong, and that's pretty much all we need from here at the moment. Okay, so with that in mind, what else do we need? Well, when our platform is constructed, what do we want to do? So that means when the object is created in your world, what do we need? What does the moving platform need? It's going to need its own array of control points that will tell the platform where to go. So to do this, we're going to need a variable, an array of interp control point. So let's create a new variable, and we can call it control points, for example, array, or let's call it waypoints. Okay, we're going to click on this so we can access it inside the editor. And here it's not a boolean we want, it's interp. Here it is. It should be appearing there. Interp control point. But we don't want only one. We want an array of it. So click on the icon at the end there, and we select it an array. I'm going to expose it on spawn as well. Okay. You can set a category if you want. If you were to have more variable that you expose in your editor. So here, for example, I'm going to call it waypoints. That'll be a category. I'll show you that in a minute. I'm going to compile, save, and if I go in the editor and we select this, on the right hand side in the details, we should see, let me, moving platforms, yeah, we haven't got instance editable waypoint. I'm missing something. Oh, hang on, got the wrong object selected, of course. If I select it inside the editor, you can see our waypoints array that is here and inside the category waypoints. So you can create different categories there. And you could add elements, but we'll see that in a moment. So if I go back in here, what do we need to do? We need to initialize our array. So for this, we're going to grab the waypoint, get waypoint. Notice that you can use Control and drag to get a get, and it's Alt and drag to get a set, and we're gonna need that. So we're gonna set our waypoint, but that's not quite the one we want. Sorry, we want our interp movement, and that's the one we want to set. So here we're gonna do set control point there, just link it, and we want to store it inside our waypoint one here, the variable. Okay, next we saw that there was a duration. So the duration, it's a simple float which we can create as well, variable duration. So we can also control inside the editor, that's why I click on the eye, how long it will take to go from one from the start to the end. So float, make sure it's not an array, duration, and so we need to set it up. So from the interp to movement, sorry, you want to look for duration. So we want to set it, and what do we want to set it to? We want to set it to our variable, so we can just drag and drop in here, and here we have it. There's one more thing we'll come back to. Actually, I can show you there. Interp to movement, if we scroll down, or you can do a search, that might be easier. Yeah, here it is. Activation, auto activate. Since we want to control it with a trigger, we won't want that to be activated. So you could deactivate it from here, or what we could do is, once again, I'm gonna put an extra there, and what we want is auto activate, set auto activate. So auto set auto activate there, and we link it, and we don't want it to be activated, so we leave that unticked. And that's pretty much it. So when we're going to have that built, you have here, press C for comment, you are set the array of control points. Always good practice to put comments in your code. That will not only help you, but if you're not working alone, which is often the case in games, you want to have comments to help retrieve what your code is doing and understand all that you've been coding. So here what we do, we assign duration. It's fairly simple comments, but it's easy to spot. We're going to compile that and save. Then in the event graph, what do we want to do? So we want to do something that will communicate with the pressure plate. So we'll come back to that when we have the pressure plate created. So let's go back in here, and we're going to right click, blueprint class, actor, BP underscore pressure plate. There we go. And here we are in the blueprint. Let's create a base first. So I'm gonna use a cube. What size? I don't know. I'll do 2 to 0.1. That'll be just the base. I should have named it. So the base of our pressure plate. Now we need what's gonna act as the pressure plate or button. I'm gonna use a cube again, and let's call it a pressure plate. So at the moment it's a child of the base. You could leave it like that, but I'm gonna just put them all into the root, the default scene root. So the pressure plate, we're gonna get a size, we did 2, so I'm gonna 1.1 maybe, no, 2, 1.9 I want, and 1.9, 0.2. Just gonna make a small one. I'm gonna move it up a little bit. Let's say there at 10, I'll do the job. I'm gonna give it a nice visible material as well. M underscore, let's give it the blue one. Oh, it's an instance, so mi blue metal. There we go. So we've got a blue button. Okay, so we have our object, our button, but we need one more thing. We need what's going to detect the collision with the player, with the object. So this is a trigger. Trigger volume, or box collision, and we're going to call it trigger volume. And again, I'm just going to put it in the root. And we need to change the size. So I'm going to do a size of, let's see, 80. We need more. 100 sounds good. 100. Yeah, it goes a bit outside. It's up to you. I might go for what's 90. Not enough. 95. Yeah, we'll go with 95. 95. And we should be good. I'm just gonna move it up a bit, and so anything object that enters that box, that collision box, will trigger the button going down, or pressure plate going down, and the start of the moving platform. So what else do we need? First of all, that trigger volume. We need to check collision, so can character step up? Don't need this. You need to make sure the generate overlap events is working, and overlap all dynamics or overlap all, so just be careful with that one, because everything going on it, even the moving platform, could trigger it. So if you want only the character or only certain specific objects, you would have to code it. unless it's already in there. You could go for something like physics actors or things like that. For simplicity, I'm just going to keep it at overlap all at the moment. So I think that's pretty much what we need at the moment. We're going to need a few other variables, but for now what we're going to do is straight away look at the code in the event graph. So in the event graph, what we want to do is we want to react when that box trigger volume, something enter it. So we can go at the bottom and you have here on component begin overlap or on component end overlap. But you can also do that in the event graph. When you got this selected, you right click here, add event on component begin overlap, and we're also going to need on component end overlap, so when the object is leaving the trigger volume. So what do we do when we enter the volume? So let's keep it simple for now and we'll add things. First of all, we want to move the pressure plate down. Okay, so this can be achieved by using a timeline. So timeline is simply a curve, and I'm going to call it something like PP anim, pressure plate anim. And when you double click it, you enter this. The length of the animation should be fairly short. I'm going to do 0.4. It's a bit long, maybe 0.3. There you go. And I'm going to need a float. Why you float? Because what we want to do is take that box, that pressure plate, and move it from there to there. So that's -4, and it was, I believe, at 10. So we want to move from 10 to -4 on Z. Okay. So in the animation, we're just gonna manage that change of the Z-axis coordinate. So I'm gonna right-click in the track, and I'm gonna right-click again and add a second point. The first point start at 0, and the value at the start is 10. And the second point, finishing at 0.3, because the length of our timeline is 3, the value should be -4. And when you've done this, you can click on those to frame your curve. One thing I'm going to add and change a little bit is that first point. I'm going to put it on auto, and I'm going to make it go down. So it goes down very fast at the start and slow down at the end. And when we'll play reverse, it'll be slow and then faster to the top, as if it's a bit of a bounce, a little bit more dynamic than a linear movement. Okay, so we have this. How do we use it? What do we want to do? So this, we said, is what's gonna... Oh, I noticed we haven't named the track. So let's go there and change the name of the track. So you can do this. Rename, sorry, right click and rename. And PP height, maybe. There. Okay, so now when we go back onto our event graph, you can see what's coming out here is the pressure plate height as an animation. So since the pressure plate, we're going to need it. And what do we want to do? We want to change its position. So it's set relative location. Set relative location on the update. And there's the location. So relative location according to the root of our actor or blueprint. So here, as you can see, it's orange and we've got a float green. Orange is a transform, new location vector, or it's a vector, and it's got 3. But in Unreal, you can easily access this by right clicking and split struct pin, which gives us access to the 3 floats. All we have to do is to plug the Z coordinate or the Z value, okay, which I remind you in our curve will go from 10 to -4. Okay, so that's simple enough. What we need to do when we leave the trigger, well, we want to reverse our curve. So let's just try that for now. Save, moving platforms, and third-person examples. Let's bring the pressure plate here. Let's have a look. When I play, I can go in there, and when I step on it, when I step out, when I step on it, when I step out. Excellent. So same thing here with a moving platform. Okay, so that's what we want, but we still have no link between the two. So how do we create the link? Well, let's go back in our pressure plate. We need to tell first what the moving platform should be doing, and that's what we haven't done earlier. So to do this, we need to create. You could do it in event tick, but it's not recommended. Event tick is going to be performed a lot of times in a very small amount of time, so you want to avoid using this too much, okay, or for heavy things. This is not like we're doing something extremely heavy, but when you can avoid it, it's better. And here, creating our custom events will allow us to have better control, and it's a good opportunity for you to learn. So right click, and we want custom event. Add custom event, you need to name it, so we're gonna call it PP activated. So our pressure plate has been activated. Remember, we are on the moving platform, and this custom event belongs to the moving platform. However, we will call it from the pressure plate. So I'm going to add another one, custom event, add custom event, and we're going to call it PP deactivated. There you go. We've got our two events that we need. So what do we want to do into those events? Well, first we want to tell the platform when it's activated, so we're going to need the movement. We need to tell the interrupt movement that it needs to activate itself. Remember, we deactivated auto activate here, we deactivated it, so we need to activate it. So right, get the interrupt move, and we're going to say something complicated, set active. Okay, I'm going to link this and new active. There. Now, what do we want to do? We want to add something that is going to allow us to stop and resume the movement. So from the interrupt, I'm going to add a set component tick enabled. Okay, and we're going to turn it on. Add a little like this. Out of this, what do we want to do when it's deactivated? The same thing, but we deactivate the tick enabled. Okay, so if you want, activate movement, oops, can't spell, and this is pose and pose movement. There. Okay, so what we have is two custom events: activate our platform movement, deactivate from the pressure plate. How do we make that work? Okay, so I'm going to make a bit of space here, and that should be activated and deactivated on begin overlap and end overlap. So to make it work, we need to be able to figure out to grab the moving platform. The pressure plate needs to know which moving platform, and we're going to make something handy as well for that. The first thing we need to do is to create a new variable, and it's going to be our platform to activate. Okay, so basically we're going to give that pressure plate a target, I'm going to press on the I so you can choose it from the editor, and of course it's not a boolean. What we want is our BP moving platforms, pressure plate. Hang on, moving platform, sorry. I've got the one I use for training and I get a little bit confused. So that's what we want, platform to activate, and it should be our moving platform because we are inside the pressure plate and we want to get access to the moving platform we have in the level. So by pressing on the I, the advantage is when I press on this, now you have platform to activate, and when you click you can choose moving platform 2. That's this one, moving platform 2. So let's do this, moving platform 2. Right, a couple of other things we're gonna have to do. Yeah, sorry, I've lost a little bit. What we want to do is first we're gonna need to know if this platform, there's one that has been selected. So I'm gonna do get, and when I right click on it, you have convert to validated get. So normally, to make sure the platform has been selected and is valid, you would probably use is valid, something like this, and you would create a branch that you would link here and back there. So you got 3 nodes. So the advantage of right clicking on it, convert to validated, is we got only one node that does exactly the same thing, platform to activate, and I'm gonna copy it and I'm gonna place it on here as well, reverse. Now we could put things like when it's not valid, we could print something, a message for debug, and here we could say you need a target platform, something like this, and let's make it red. There. Copy paste, is not valid, same message. Here we go. Now all we got left to do is to call on to our event, our custom event. So we call them pp underscore activated. So instead, when it's valid, we go through this, and here the same, but pp, oh, missed something. I've got a display bug. Okay, let me pause the recording a second. Okay, we should be back. Sorry about that, I've got a little visual bug sometimes. So here we're gonna do pp deactivated. Reverse, compile and save, and let's have a look. So here, going to clear so we can see the message. You need a target platform. You can see it in the top left corner. Suddenly I was wondering why it wasn't working. Okay, so that's what we're gonna need. Go in here, and when we place the moving platform, we're gonna have another issue that I know already, is that moves, but the moving platform is not. So it's not moving for a good reason. We haven't set any control point. So similarly, what we can do is we could put a message here to check if we have a certain amount of control points. So you could do something like that, get waypoint, You grab the length, and if it is greater or equal to 2, because you need at least 2 control points, then you got a branch. There, and if it's false, you can print string. You need at least 2 control points, and make it red as well. Let's give it a try. I'm trying to be quick because it's already a long time. Yes, you need at least 2 control points, and I still have the halo. So here, first of all, when I select the moving platform, I'd like the duration to be first 5. That's another thing we should be doing pretty quickly by changing the duration variable to 5 per default. That'd be better. And here you can add members. So here, if I press this one, you can see waypoints 1, the first one is 0. If I move it here, and then I can add another third one if you want. There we go, point 2, if I place it here, and you can put as many as you want. Now if I were to try and go for it, our platform moves, goes from the first to the last and goes back, and when you get out, okay, I'm gonna just quickly grab this one and show you that it should work. There you go, with an object as well. Get out of the way and it stops. So it can be used for all sort of things, especially because you can stop it in a puzzle game. That could be really good. You got more than one, and you can place them how you need them, you know, from another side of the level, so you can then pass or whatever. A lot of different things you can do with it. I hope you like it. I think that's pretty much it. We're gonna do a very quick recap. So we created a moving platform. We had the platform there using interrupt to movement. So with the interrupt to movement, we got access to waypoints. We created the variables. We set that up. We set the duration, and we make sure it's not activated. Can get rid of that. Here we created 2 custom events. Activated. Check there's enough waypoints, control points. If not, we print a message. We set it active, enable, tick enabled to make sure we can stop it and resume it. Deactivate it, still need to make sure interrupt movement is active, and then tick enable is not, so it stops moving. Okay, in the pressure plate, we have a base, a pressure plate that goes down, and a trigger volume. That's our timeline, and in the event graph, when we begin overlap, we check we have a platform selected. If not, we print a message. We call onto the custom event inside the moving platform. We play our animation, which drives the Z location of the pressure plate and set its relative location. When we end the overlap, same thing, verify the platform is valid, deactivate it, the custom event, reverse the animation of the pressure plate, and that's it. You're all set up. It's very good because if you wanted, you could easily duplicate those. Oops. Change where they go. You can duplicate this one, and instead of platform 2, go to platform 3. and here that's the one, and there's the second one. It's very easy to set up, and you could even, you've got different colors and stuff, you could get combinations for a puzzle game, as I said. Okay, I hope you liked it and it was clear enough. Thank you.